The sun was just beginning to set behind the concrete skyline of Brooklyn, its golden light bouncing off windows and car hoods, casting long shadows across the busy intersection near Atlantic Avenue. Kendra Wallace adjusted the strap on her backpack and tightened her hoodie as a cool breeze swept down the street. She had just left the college library, her eyes gritty from too many hours, staring at diagrams of hydraulic prosthetics and community infrastructure plans she could barely afford to print. At 19, Kendra was used to moving quickly between classes, jobs, and expectations. She worked 3 shifts a week at a local cafe just to keep enough in her Metro card for school, and still sent money home to her mother when she could. Her dreams were big, maybe too big, some said, but her mind never stopped designing better ways to fix broken systems. Just as she reached the edge of the crosswalk, her earbuds buzzed with a text. "Shift moved up TMRW. Need you 06 a.m. Great. Her manager again. No, please, no, thanks. Just expectation. With a sigh, she pocketed the phone and stepped forward, then stopped. There, standing uncertainly at the edge of the curb, was an elderly white man with a cane. He was tall, with a worn tweed coat and a hat that looked like it belonged to a different era. The city rushed past him. No one looked. A woman with shopping bags gave him a sideways glance of annoyance as she brushed by. He stood perfectly still, blinking up at the signal. The white walk symbol flashed too quickly. The timer began to count down from 10. He didn't move. "Excuse me, sir?" Kendra asked softly, stepping closer. "You need help crossing?" The man turned slowly. His eyes were watery blue, ringed with tiredness, but focused. "Yes," he said, barely audible over the noise of traffic. "The signal. It's too fast for me." Kendra didn't hesitate. She offered her arm, and he took it with careful dignity. "It's all good," she said, smiling gently. "We've got time." The two stepped off the curb just as the countdown hit 8. She adjusted her pace to match his slow, deliberate steps. Cars waited, engines humming impatiently. Someone honked. Kendra didn't flinch. Neither did the man. When they reached the other side, he paused to catch his breath, leaning heavier on his cane. "Thank you, young lady. That was very kind." "No problem," Kendra said. "You okay now?" He nodded once. "I'll manage from here." As he turned, something slipped from his coat pocket, a folded note with an address and faint pencil writing. Kendra bent to pick it up. "Sir, you dropped this." He looked surprised, then chuckled as she handed it back. "Ah, getting clumsier by the day." He took it and hesitated. "If you ever need anything at all, come by this place." Kendra blinked, then smiled politely. "Sure, take care, all right?" The man nodded once, then shuffled down the sidewalk and disappeared into the crowd. Kendra didn't think much of it. New York was full of strange moments. She slipped back into the rhythm of the city, her feet sore, her mind already racing with tomorrow's schedule. A small moment, a small kindness. She didn't even ask his name. The next morning began like too many others. The cafe was packed before the sun had even fully risen. The espresso machine hissed. Orders flew. Kendra moved fast, her name tag crooked. Her hands burned from hot cups and broken lids. She smiled at customers, even the ones who refused to look her in the eye. Then it happened. A man in a business suit snapped at her. I've been waiting 6 minutes. Are you even paying attention? Kendra blinked. Sorry, sir. Your drink's almost— Don't sorry me, he snapped. Unbelievable. First they hire kids, now they hire ones who can't even multitask. The cafe fell silent. Her manager, a pale man named Craig with perfect hair and zero empathy, stepped in. Kendra, office, now. She followed, heart sinking. She'd been through this before. Craig didn't sit. This is the third complaint this week. She was yelling at me for being too slow. Doesn't matter. Perception matters. We're a business. You mean I'm the only one getting called out for it? Craig sighed like he was the victim. Let's just say this isn't working out. Fired. No notice. No backup plan. Just like that. Kendra walked out with her apron folded under her arm and her dignity barely intact. Her hands were still trembling. She sat on a bench outside the subway, staring at her cracked phone screen. No shifts, no money, no help. Her eyes fell on the note in her pocket. The address. The man from the crosswalk. It was probably nothing. A lonely old guy being polite. Or worse, someone who didn't really mean it. But Kendra had nothing left to lose. She stood. The house was older than the others on the block. Brick, with ivy on the walls and a black gate half open. The sign near the entrance was discreet. F. Winslow. She hesitated, then knocked. The door opened. It was him, the same man. But this time he wasn't alone. Behind him were two assistants in matching suits and what looked like a private nurse adjusting a monitor near a high-backed chair. Kendra took a step back. I'm sorry. I didn't know this was your home. He smiled. I was hoping you'd come. He invited her in. The foyer was lined with strange devices, robotic arms, strange clocks, digital paintings that responded to motion. I'm Franklin Winslow, he said, as they walked slowly to the sitting room. Retired, in theory. Kendra stared. As in, Winds Tech? He nodded. Once. I stepped down years ago. Now I mostly read, build, and wait for people who still see what others walk past. She sat, hands still clenched around her bag. I didn't come here for a job, she said quickly. I just remembered what you said. I know. That's why you're here. He poured her tea with shaking hands, but his eyes were sharp now, curious. You study engineering? Kendra nodded. Social infrastructure, mostly. I want to build systems for people who never get considered. Franklin leaned forward, eyes alive. Do you write proposals? She reached into her backpack, her old folder, dog-eared pages, graphs, equations, crayon diagrams from when she was 16. She never showed it to anyone. He took the folder gently, read silently, then smiled. I want to hear more. The next day, the sky over Brooklyn cracked open with rain. Not a gentle drizzle, but a heavy gray downpour that blurred everything, the buildings, the sidewalks, even Kendra's thoughts. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a spam alert and 3 unread messages from her mother asking if she'd eaten. She had, technically, a banana and some peanut butter packets from her backpack. Kendra had spent most of the night replaying yesterday's visit in her mind. The tea. The room of machines that looked like science fiction and steampunk had a child. And Franklin Winslow himself, thoughtful, watchful, writing things down as if every word she spoke held value. She wasn't used to that. No one at the cafe asked about her project ideas. At school, professors barely remembered her name. But yesterday, someone had listened closely. So when Franklin's assistant called her that morning and said, "He'd like to see you again today," Kendra didn't even hesitate. She borrowed an umbrella, put on her cleanest pair of jeans, and took the Q train to Queens. Now, as she stood once again at the gate of the Winslow residence, wiping water from her glasses, she felt a tangle of hope and nerves in her chest. She buzzed the intercom. This time, when the door opened, she didn't just see Franklin. There were 3 other people in the foyer. 2 men in suits, mid-40s, clearly from the world of wealth, patent leather shoes, Rolexes, polite smiles that didn't reach their eyes, and a woman with a briefcase and posture so perfect it could slice glass. Franklin was in the middle, cane in one hand, notebook in the other. His voice was warm when he turned. "Kendra," he said, "thank you for coming. I'd like you to meet a few people." She froze. Okay. "These are investors," he said matter-of-factly. "And this is Marlene, my estate lawyer." Kendra swallowed hard. Her heart skipped. "Wait, I don't have a resume or anything." "You don't need one," Franklin said gently. "You already showed me what matters." He guided her into the library, a vast room of shelves and glass walls. The rain outside blurred the world beyond, but the room felt like a spotlight had been turned inward. "Have a seat," Franklin said. "Tell them what you told me yesterday." Kendra blinked, her hands clenched in her lap. I didn't prepare anything." "That's okay," he said. "Just speak." At first, her voice was shaky. She talked about food deserts, about how bus routes in low-income areas were designed without considering the elderly or disabled. She mentioned community-built filtration units. Then she opened her folder again. Pages she'd scribbled on the train. Diagrams, a rough pitch for a self-regulating public hygiene station designed for shelters, something she'd dreamed up after volunteering one winter. Slowly, the room changed. The suits stopped checking their watches. The woman leaned forward, and Kendra found her rhythm. She wasn't performing. She was sharing, living, explaining. By the time she finished, there was silence. Then Franklin said, "Now tell them how old you were when you drew that water purification model." Kendra smiled. 15. I built the prototype from parts I found in a thrift store and my mom's broken coffee machine." One of the investors laughed, not unkindly. "I've sat in $100 million pitches less clear than that." Franklin turned to them. "Gentlemen, what do you think?" "She's got something," the taller one said, "but no degree, no professional experience." "She's 19, Franklin interrupted. "So was I when I filed my first patent." The other investor nodded slowly. "If you're serious about this—" "I'm not interested in your capital," Franklin said. "Not yet. I'm interested in your ears and your network. I want to build something with her voice in the room." Kendra looked between them all, stunned. "What are you doing?" she asked him softly. "I'm making sure the world hears you," he said, "and I'm not doing it alone." That afternoon, Franklin asked her to stay. They sat again in the parlor. A record player in the corner hummed quietly with jazz. "You ever hear of the WinStech Young Innovators program?" he asked. Kendra nodded. "It's legendary. Interns from that program basically get recruited straight into the industry. But it shut down, right? He sipped his tea. Because it got too corporate, lost the heart. But I'm reviving it, and I want you to be the face of it. Kendra blinked. Me? You're not just an applicant. You're a blueprint. Your story, it's exactly what the next generation needs to see. But why? She asked. I only helped you across the street. Franklin looked at her, his eyes more lucid than she'd seen before. And how many others walked past? She went quiet. He leaned forward, placing his wrinkled hand gently over hers. You stopped when no one else did, and then you spoke like no one else had ever listened. I've had meetings with government officials who made less sense than your folder of napkin sketches. Kendra's eyes burned. She hadn't realized she was holding her breath. You think I could really do this? She whispered. I think, he said, that one day the kids who grow up in neighborhoods like yours will say, I want to be like Kendra Wallace. She didn't cry. Not then. But something opened in her, a door she'd kept bolted for years, a part of her that still remembered being the only girl of color in her robotics club, getting mistaken for the assistant, being told her ideas were too ambitious. And now here she was, in the library of one of the greatest living inventors, being seen. 3 days later, the story broke. A feature in Tech Frontier Weekly. From barista to visionary, meet the girl who rebooted WindsTech. There was a photo, Kendra in a blazer, sitting next to Franklin in his armchair, both of them laughing mid-conversation. She didn't even know the photo was being taken. Across the city, in a certain cafe, her former manager, Craig, stared at the headline, mouth slightly open. Behind the counter, one of the younger baristas whispered, Yo, that's Kendra, right? From here. The article went viral. Her email was flooded. Her old college invited her to speak. A dozen foundations reached out. But what mattered more than any of it was the message she got on a rainy evening from her mom. I just saw the article. I'm so proud of you, baby. I never doubted you. I'm crying. I love you. That night, Franklin handed her a binder. Inside, the first draft of the new Winslow Initiative with her name next to his, not as a student, as co-director. Her hand trembled. I'm not leaving you money, he said plainly. I'm giving you authorship. Legacy, the kind no one can take from you. And Kendra, who once thought she'd never be more than the girl behind the counter, closed the binder slowly and said the words she never thought she'd get to say. Let's build something better. The stage was larger than anything Kendra Wallace had ever stood on. Black curtains, spotlights, a crimson TEDx logo glowing in the corner like a heartbeat. She could barely hear the audience behind the lights, but she could feel them, hundreds of eyes, waiting. She looked down at the speech in her hands. It wasn't printed on expensive cardstock, just 3 folded pages, handwritten in her neat, determined scrawl. In the front row sat her mother, dressed in her Sunday best. Beside her, a row of young girls, black, brown, and brilliant-eyed, each wearing Walk Forward pins. Franklin Winslow was not present. He'd passed quietly 2 weeks earlier, in his sleep. The last thing he told her, as she adjusted his blanket, was, Your story isn't starting now, Kendra. It's just louder. He had left her his notebooks, his tools, and a future she hadn't dared imagine. Now, standing on that stage, Kendra adjusted the mic and began. "I helped a man cross the street," she said. "That's it. I didn't do it for credit or reward. He didn't look like me, and he didn't ask twice. But he needed help, so I stopped." A pause, and that moment changed my life. She took a breath. The room was still. I didn't know the man I helped was Franklin Winslow Inventor, billionaire, and the mind behind half the robotics in our hospitals today. But he knew something about the world I didn't. He knew how invisible kindness had become. How many people look past someone simply because they don't recognize their worth. The screen behind her lit up, a photo of the two of them laughing in that sunlit study. He didn't choose me because of my resume. I didn't have one. He chose me because I showed up. Kendra's voice steadied. He didn't give me a check. He gave me authorship, co-leadership of the Winslow Initiative, a seat I didn't even know existed. And when he died, he left me not his fortune, but his mission, to build a future that doesn't forget the ones who build it. Applause stirred, but she raised a hand gently. I created Walk Forward because I didn't want to be the exception. I wanted to be the start. We now offer free engineering mentorship for girls from underserved communities because no one should have to prove they're worth helping. And no one should be surprised when the brightest minds come from the places society least expects. A beat. When I told my story, people said it was inspiring. But I want to be clear. I didn't do anything extraordinary. I saw someone, and I stopped. She smiled. Franklin Winslow helped me cross more than a street. He helped me cross a lifetime of being overlooked. Then, quietly, now it's my turn to help others do the same. As she stepped off the stage, the applause swelled, rising like a tide. Her mother stood, tears streaking her cheeks, hands trembling. The girls beside her clapped like their hearts were on fire. Backstage, a reporter waited. "You were a barista," she said. "Now you're running a multi-million-dollar initiative. What's the biggest change?" Kendra didn't hesitate. Back then, no one saw me unless I made a mistake. Now, they see me before I speak. 2 weeks later, the first Walk Forward STEM Center opened in Harlem, a renovated warehouse turned tech lab, free to any girl who walked through the doors. On opening day, over 300 came. Some wore backpacks with duct tape straps. Some spoke barely above a whisper, but they came. And when they entered, they saw it. A mural painted on the main wall. Kendra helping an old man across a busy street. Beneath it, a plaque, dedicated to those who stop when everyone else walks past. At her desk in the corner office, Kendra sat surrounded by blueprints. She still carried Franklin's notebook, its edges worn soft. Inside was the line he'd written weeks before he died. Kindness is not a gesture. It is a design principle. And beside it, in her own handwriting, so is visibility. Kendra Wallace, once invisible, now unforgettable, picked up her pen and kept designing. Not for herself, for everyone still waiting to cross.